everyone, I am the 83rd Azure writer. You can call me Azure. I've seen a decent amount of anime over the years, but one that stands out to me the most, to the point where I could call it my favorite anime, is easily Assassination Classroom. And my favorite web series that I've never gotten tired of watching is Death Battle. So, Death Battle matches for Assassination Classroom. Why not? I will be including characters exclusive to the manga, live action movies, characters who aren't named in the anime, or characters from the Korotan series, because this list is quite big enough as it is. Some of these characters have also been paired up for tag teams. These characters have been sorted into different groups, and they're listed based on how much I like the characters in each group. And I don't really expect these to be in Death Battle. A bunch of these are rather weak matchups, but, well, honestly, this is more of a character comparison list. Expect to see a lot of My Hero Academia and Danganronpa. Assassination Classroom is rather limited in what it can do. I don't really like Assassination Classroom versus My Hero Academia in terms of versus debating, but my hands are tied. Alright, starting out the group is the characters who hold the least amount of importance to the overall story, aka the extras. Kao Tsuchiya versus Akane from the mangas on the YouTube channel called Etchichan Saw It. The last woman you want to be in a relationship with, whose appearances are mostly known from manga. They are also not loyal at all. Check out Etchichan Saw It, it's an awesome YouTube channel. I assume Akane, the character usually portrayed as an adult, would win. Nobita Tanaka and Chosuke Takada versus Vincent Crabbe and Gregory Goyle from Harry Potter. Duos of morons who are also bullies who spend most of their time riding on the cocktails of their superiors. The stupider duo wins. I'll let you decide which is which. Kevin versus Dash Baxter from Danny Phantom. Giant blonde American jocks with blue eyes. They get humiliated pretty easily. Don't know who wins? Don't really care. Nisei Onaga versus the Ultimate Imposter from Danganronpa. Alternate skins. Don't know who wins. Probably the Ultimate Imposter. Ikeda, Nakai, and Mori versus Daichi, Sugawara, and Asahi from Haikyuu. A trio of students who can be considered the OG generation. One of them is very sporty and gets really depressed. I assume that the trio with 3 athletes win. Kasutaka Shindo versus Leon Kawada from Danganronpa. Baseball guys who can be seen as bad people but soon become people you're more sympathetic towards. Shindo seems to be not that bad of a guy while Leon straight up dies. I know that there's Leon versus Sugino, but I like to think that the one I came up for, the better baseball boy, is better than against Leon. Okay, before we go on, let me say something. In my opinion, based on which characters you're using, the power chain between My Hero Academia, Assassination Classroom, and Danganronpa goes with My Hero Academia at top as the strongest, Assassination Classroom in the middle, and Danganronpa just below it as the weakest. Keep that in mind for the rest of the As Class versus My Hero or Danganronpa matchups, unless I say otherwise. That will help me out a lot, so I can say less overall. Mr. Masakata versus Kaede Kageyama from the No No Biori series. They're characters with motorbikes. I like Kaede, so this is here. The old man loses. Sonic Ninja versus Master Yaiba from Detective Conan. Badass fictional superheroes within their series. Yes, I'm being serious. Don't know who wins, but make it hype as all hell. Sakura Kiyashiki versus Izumi Koda from My Hero Academia. Small kids with attitudes who are influenced positively by the main protagonist of their series, ending up as kids who look up to the people who made their lives better, despite their previous treatment of them. Their attitudes come from bad childhoods, with Sakura being chased out of her school by bullies and Koda losing his parents. And both play an important role in helping the protagonists determine their futures. A little disappointed that I ended this group list on Assassination Classroom versus My Hero Academia, but I'm comforted by the fact that I like these 2 kids and their relationship with the protagonists, and that this is an Assassination Classroom. Well, maybe. Sakura is a kid in her final year of elementary school, while Koda is a kid in nursery school. But Koda does have a quirk, which might change the verdict a little bit. Sakura might still win since... Wait, why am I trying to figure this one out? They're freaking kids. Next up is Class 3A, specifically the Big Five. This group of characters rank above the extras because of Asuna. Natsuhiko Koyama vs Max from Pokemon. Annoying brats with glasses who act like complete know-it-alls, but contribute little to nothing at all. Give Max Ralts and have him absolutely curb stomp Koyama. I don't like that douche at all. Tomoya Aseo vs Cormac McLagan from Harry Potter. They're proof that anyone can get a date. They'd also like you to think that they're really cool, but barely do anything impressive and have failed to back up their words. Cormac definitely wins. Tepai Araki vs Etsuya Aizen from Food Wars. Dudes with glasses considered to be the elite in their school, but were defeated almost easily by someone they looked heavily down on. And despite acting as though they're on top of the world, they're ultimately the pawns and underlings of people who stand leagues above them. Aizen would win due to his absolutely hilarious faces making Araki laugh so hard he dies. Ren Sakakibara vs Haji Seo from D-Frag. Good looking guys, who attract a lot of girls, but both act rather creepy, and are massive simps. I'm rooting for Haji cause he's actually really funny. Okay, I know these are lame, but the Big Five are rather irrelevant, aside from Asano, so I can't do a lot with them. These are the best I got for them, and I think I did a decent job. Gakushu Asano vs Byakuya Tsugami from Danganronpa, the matchup with the most connections on this section of the list, and it's the best one out of them all. Two rich prodigies who are also known to be people who view themselves at the top of the food chain. Despite being an arrogant douche, they actually prove themselves worthy of their titles and attitudes, but have been matched in skill and intelligence before. Their attitudes seem to be uncalled for the most part, but they grew up in toxic childhoods, which teach them that this kind of attitude is the one that is necessary in their world. Ironically, this results in them unable to overcome a specific problem while their rival in intelligence was able to, due to their more flexible and kinder worldview. Despite what you think, they're not heartless people and are ultimately on the side of good. Kinda. And when they do make friends, they're usually loyal to them. Kinda. The second largest and second to last group are the adults. Let's take a look at the matchups on this list. Akira Tagaoka vs Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter. Terrible teachers working for the government who thrive on the usage of torture on students and are extremely petty to the point where they'd be more than happy to kill the protagonist. Don't care who might win, but I admit this is the only time I would root for Takaoka. Kyodaho. Kotaro Nagisawa vs Kyodai Garaki from My Hero Academia. Crazy mad scientists who help mold a major big bad and aids them in their attempt to kill a major teacher in their world and their students. Nagisawa wins due to his tentacles and superhuman body, and due to Kyodai being rather worthless in a fight. Second class matchup that went against My Hero Academia. Probably the least debatable. Smile vs Mustard from My Hero Academia. Poison guys. Grid vs Tank Top Black Hole from One Punch Man. Grabby guys. Gastro vs Snipe from My Hero Academia. Gun guys. Red Eye vs Sniper from Team Fortress 2. Hyrule gun guys. Shinigami vs Tai Lung from Kung Fu Panda. They started out as children taken in and raised by masters of their arts. Despite being passionate students trying their best to earn their teachers' acknowledgement and respect, what they were taught was tainted by their teachers' pride, causing them to go down a darker path. One which leads them to almost killing their old masters, even though they still felt somewhat close to them in some way and respected them. Both descend into power-hungry monsters who attempt to take one of the most highly respected titles in their universes, but fail to fully do so. Tai Lung didn't understand and accept the secret of the Dragon Scroll, and Shinigami was stated to be inferior to the real Reaper by Kurasama. Both were defeated by their opposites. They both showed off their skill against their former master's new batch of students, and proved themselves to be superior, despite being impressed by their skills and tactics. They also choose to spare them for a long-term goal, Tai Lung to spread fear and Shinigami to bait Koro-sensei. Despite being the greatest in skill out of the students that their masters taught, they consider to be their regrets, as the teachers regret how they failed them by not seeing them properly, and hope to redeem themselves by raising a different batch of students. It's a decent amount of connections, and it's the best matchup I got with both characters. I'd honestly like to see this in a fight. Also, if you don't have Talon acknowledge Shinigami as a worthy opponent and that their battle will be legendary, then the death battle is an automatic 1 out of 10. Gakkou Asuno vs Jin Kirigiri from Danganronpa, the principals of a highly renowned school and fathers of a smart kid who tries to uncover a major secret. They don't do a really good job at being a dad, but they still care about their kid. Hirumi Shiota vs Rei Todoroki from My Hero Academia. Mothers of abuse victims who are responsible for an important part of their character's appearance, as well as being very loved by their sons despite having done something terrible to them, and both are essential to their kids' growth. Honestly, I came up with this since they're the mothers of Nagisa and Todoroki, who have a lot of similarities themselves. I found out that they have a little more in common than just that. Aguri Yukimura vs Toriel Dreamer from Undertale. Both are females who act as teachers early in the timeline, who are the reason as to why the main characters are watched over by another character. They're also someone who's in a relationship with someone else, but end up going in separate paths from the people that they were in a relationship with. Aguri fell in love with Koro-sensei due to him treating her far better than Yanagisawa, while Toriel left Asgore out of disgust for his actions. Toriel wins, obviously. But let's be real, they'll just have pie and tea together and talk about the children that they love and care for. Love Robrovsky vs Nick Fury from Marvel. Badasses in trench coats associated with a foreign female assassin who's been trained to kill from a young age. They're also responsible for assigning said assassins to a group dedicated to save the world. It is the beast that he got for the badass Russian teacher. Okay, that was a terrible accent. I apologize to everyone I offended. Nick Fury wins. Arena Yalovic vs Ekichi Onizuka from Great Teacher Onizuka, blonde teachers who smoke. Oh, and they also become teachers for selfish goals, but end up being teachers who care very much about their students and are willing to help and connect to them, despite the fact that their students can be considered to be the scum of society. I don't really know who would win, but maybe Bitch Sensei does thanks to her assassin training. Tadao Mikurasama vs Shota Aizawa from My Hero Academia. They're the serious teachers of a group of teachers who don't seem to get along very well with one of them, but are actually shown to consider them valuable pieces to their students' growth. They both show the same love and care for their students as the teacher they consider to be a massive drama queen and annoyance, and they teach their students to surpass said teacher. Kurasama to kill Koro-sensei and Aizawa to replace All Might as the pillars of society. Even though this is still a My Hero Academia win, and it's not a hard one to debate at all, it's one that I don't mind seeing because I really like these two teachers, and both of them are really good fighters, so it could be interesting watching them fight. Maybe we can have something similar to that of Solid Snake vs Sam Fisher, or Balrog vs TJ Combo, only more martial arty than just boxing. Okay, just one more character left. One more character, one more matchup, and then we go to the last group. If you're keeping track of the adults, you probably can guess who it is. Koro-sensei vs Sans the Skeleton. At first glance, they're only smiling characters who are funny and weak physically. But they're also some of the most mysterious and intimidating characters in their respective series, and when they get serious, they're some of the most powerful, and the most difficult to kill due to their incredible evasive abilities. They're raised by a kind-hearted teacher figure to protect and care for children. Aguri asks Koro-sensei to be a teacher for Class 3E, and Toriel asks Sans to protect any human who passed through the ruins. But despite being asked to protect these children, they end up dying at their hands. The contrast is that Sans died due to being unable to stop Frisk after they killed everyone he cared about, while Koro-sensei died after stopping someone from killing everyone he cared about. If I were to suggest an alternative, it will be Koro-sensei vs All Might, but this just barely edges out for me in terms of how good it is, and how much I like it. This and Shinigami vs Tai Lung are the serious matchups that I do want to see in Death Battle. And like Shinigami vs Tai Lung, I don't know or care who would win this, I just want a good fight from them and for the characters to get the respect that they deserve. Now for the final and biggest group, Class 3E. Also known as the Assassination Classroom. Let's begin. Koki Mimura vs Nashirao Ojiro from My Hero Academia. You probably forgot that they existed. Seriously, when I searched up Ojiro for the thumbnail, I got pictures of Kirishima. I guess Ryota Matarai from Danganronpa works too, but I thought of Ojiro first, and the fact that he showed up Kirishima showed up instead of him made me choose this match over that one instead. Sosuke Sugaya vs Hanta Sero from My Hero Academia. They're pretty cool when they get a chance to shine, but that's the only reason why you care more about them than the other two. Taisei Yoshida vs Mondo Owada from Danganronpa. Bikers with hair who are tasked with defeating a teacher figure who are hard to kill and have smiles on their faces. Takuya Muramatsu vs Masarao Aoki from Hajime no Ippo. They're half of a duo and ramen cooks of a group of friends and are occasionally asked for free ramen. Their roles in life involves, as you probably guess, ramen restaurants. Similar levels of speed through scaling. Maybe Muramatsu is faster, but Aoki definitely beats him in everything else. Good for him, he deserves a win in his life. The Yamcha of Hajime no Ippo. Taiga Okajima vs Mineta Minoru from My Hero Academia. Usually only seen as perverts and take pride in such a fact, but are also more competent than one would think and show themselves to be rather smart at times. They're also friendlier with their classmates than one would think, and not just in the perverted way. Hinano Kurohashi vs Koji Koda from My Hero Academia. Two students who like nature. You don't have a reason to care too much about these two either, but you do anyway since they're both adorable in their own ways. Tokayada vs Itsuka Kendo from My Hero Academia. Girls with ponytails considered to be the big sisters of the groups, with Yada literally being a big sister. They both have felt feelings of incompetence due to comparisons to another student. Yada compared herself to Hayami and Kendo was compared to Yayorozu. They did manage to defeat the people they were compared to, though they didn't get to properly enjoy their victory. Kendo didn't feel like she won against Yayorozu, and Yada had half a second to realize she shot Hayami before Utena ambushed her. It's pretty much the best I have for Yada. I don't think Yayorozu fits her as well as some people would think. Another alternative is Asahina Aoi from Danganronpa, which does have actual connections, but this one vibes better for me. Plus, Kendo is a better character. Sumira Hara vs Takumi Aldini from Food Wars. Brown kids who like food and aren't ones to underestimate in their respective fields. They're also some of the more mature and friendly characters in their respective grades. I got nothing else for her, but just look at these two. They look like they're siblings. I would assume that the assassin could beat the chef though. Karara Hazama vs Gundam Tanaka from Danganronpa. Characters who are associated with fantasy, specifically the darker parts of the genre. Gundam Tanaka has regularly claimed herself to be a Dark Lord, and Hazama has a love for darker novels, and her Valentine cards were considered to be imbued with an ancient curse. Oh, their quest is to defeat a teacher figure who is hard to kill and has a smile on their face. Yuzuki Fuwa vs Conan Edogawa from Detective Conan. They're both students who have impressed their classmates due to their detective abilities, and have both broken the fourth wall on several occasions. Yuzuki is definitely going to lose to Conan due to the fact that he has a bunch of awesome gadgets, and the fact that he actually manages to do impressive things. Kotaro Takabayashi vs Ifumi Yamada from Danganronpa. Both are weebs with glasses who are supposedly only attracted to AI, but have shown to be attracted to the opposite real-life sex. And both are associated with medical locations, with Takabayashi's family owning a hospital and Hifumi being supposedly killed in the medical bay. And some people might say that Mikan from Danganronpa will be better, but Hifumi and Takabayashi, they have more connections. Takabayashi and Mikan only have the fact that they're both connected to the medical field. Oh, and there's also the fact that they had to defeat a big bad smiling teacher figure who is very hard to kill. You getting tired of hearing that? So am I, but it's an important connection. Masayoshi Kimura vs Tenya Ida from My Hero Academia. They're speedy boys who are associated with justice, with Masayoshi being part of a family that's cops, and Tenya Ida being part of a family of heroes. And both have a small mini arc where their names play an important part. Masayoshi decides to be more accepting of his name Justice, and Tenya decides to be a hero worthy of the name Ingenium. Ingenium? Whatever. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hinata Okano vs Ran Mori from Detective Conan. Badass females who can literally kick your ass if you make them mad. They have a crush on a dense boy who also likes them but will still kick their ass if the boys piss them off. And despite being strong women, they're often seen as weaker than other females due to them not always displaying their skill. Ran is shown to be scared quite easily while Okano mostly stays in the background. I don't know who wins, they might have similar levels of speed, Okano through scaling, but I wouldn't say Ran due to her having more skill and experience. Though Okano does have actual weapons she can use, like guns and knives, so it can be pretty darn close to each other. Manami Okuya vs Melissa Shield from My Hero Academia. They are both smart girls with glasses. Got nothing else. But I like these two characters, so not too upset. It was either this or another girl with braids and glasses, and I tried to keep things wholesome in the long run. And PG-13. Matt Katsuoka vs Momo Yaoyorozu from My Hero Academia. Kind and capable and are good at being leaders of their respective classes. They're level-headed, rational, and good friends with the tsundere, but also have moments of being insecure. Katsuoka thinks herself not being feminine enough, while Yaoyorozu thought that she was incompetent in the field of heroics. They've also had multiple moments where they dealt with their class pervert, and have shown to be on good terms with their fellow male class rep. Hiroto Mayara vs Neptune Vesalias from Ruby. Playboys who are one half of a duo and act as though they're really cool but are actually massive dorks. The contrast is that Mayara is actually a cool guy I'd like to see more of, while Neptune is someone I wouldn't care if he were to disappear into the pages of history. Unless it's Ruby Chibi. Unfortunately, Neptune still wins thanks to factors like aura. Sorry Mayara, you're still the better character. Yukiko Kenzaki vs Nanami Chiaki from Danganronpa. Kind-hearted gamer girls tasked to, you guessed it, defeating a smiling big bad teacher figure. Honestly, Sonia might have been a better fit, but I like Chiaki better. Yuma Isekai vs Sakamoto from Haven't You Heard I'm Sakamoto. Considered to be the Prince Charming in their classes, they're both considered to be very attractive in many ways, resulting in them attracting and being admired by both boys and girls. And even the boys who have jealous feelings for them are forced to admit that they're just too cool. Unfortunately, the badass Sakamoto will ultimately lose to Isekai due to the fact that Isekai is an assassin while Sakamoto is just really cool. Then again, he is pretty crazy in terms of what he can do. Ryo Nakamura vs Setsuna Tokage from My Hero Academia. I almost said Danganronpa. Why did I almost say Danganronpa? Chatty, confident, and provocative. They both have a serious side to them and have shown off aspects of being good leaders and act cooperating. They're both very intelligent girls and have been acknowledged to be very gifted in many ways. But despite that, they have been overwhelmed by prodigies and another group of students when the students of a school were competing against each other. I originally humored this idea since they give off a similar vibe. I wasn't expecting this to actually be a decent matchup. In terms of connections, of course. This is one of the first matchups that was put on this list, though I wasn't the one who came up with it. This was made by my friend on Discord, Masamune Noir Prime. On YouTube, he's just Masamune Noir. He gave me Ryunosuke Chiba and Rinka Hayami versus Yumura Kirika and Mireille Bouquet from Noir. Wait, they're from Noir? Is that why he came up with that matchup? Because they're from Noir and he's Masamune Noir? Anyways, a duo of badass gun users. One has black hair and eyes a shade of red, while the other acts rather cold towards people but still has a soft spot to them. Unfortunately, I don't know too much about Noir, so I can't say who wins, or there are any other connections, but I'm rooting for the best S-Class ship. Ritsu vs Alter Ego from Danganronpa. They're both hyper-intelligent AIs who developed actual human emotions after a while. Their purpose was to defeat a smiling teacher, were hacked at some point. Ritsu by the Shinigami and Alter Ego by the Junko AI held the main protagonist and their class a lot and were thought to be undone at one point, only for it to not be the case. Ritsu was thought to have been rewritten to go back to being the Aifa, and Alter Ego was thought to have been destroyed by Monokuma, both of which were proven to be untrue. Ryoma Taraska vs Tenga Onigawara from Mob Psycho 100. I'm too used to seeing Danganronpa or My Hero Academia for these lists. Delinquents who were introduced to be troublemakers but turned into much better people through others. Both used the main protagonists to achieve their own goals but later grew to be much more friendly to them, to the point where they don't hesitate to help them out. Don't really know who would win, probably Tarasuke since he could catch Itana's tentacles. Itana Horibe vs Hajime and Nada from Danganronpa, two teen kids who belong to groups of students who were at the bottom of the food chain of a highly respected school. They were experimented on in an attempt to obtain immense power, but end up acting as an antagonist as a result, before being convinced that power isn't the most important thing in the world. Oh, and they had to defeat a smiling big bad. Not my preferred Hajime match, but it's one that I like. And it might be a good match, though a closer match than one might think. Though Hajime definitely still wins. Sorry Itana, you're still in my top 5 in Class 3E. Tomohito Sugino vs Casey Jones from the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. Characters who are more sportsy compared to their assassin friends and have become friends with someone associated with red and violence despite initially not having the best relationship with them. Sugino only viewed Karma as a sadistic troublemaker, and Casey had a fight with Raphael the first time they met. They're also romantically attracted to a female character who is smart, kind, and a competent fighter. And while I don't think this holds up in the 2003 cartoon, as I haven't fully seen it, there are some iterations of Casey competing for a girl's attention with another boy, the same way Sugino is kind of competing with Sakikabara. It's a cool matchup, one that I definitely prefer over Sugino vs Leon, and for the people saying that Suginos should fight someone associated with baseball, Casey has a baseball bat. Boom. But since Casey can somewhat keep up with the Turtles, I would say that he would win. Sorry Sugino, you're still number 4 on my ranking for Class 3E. Next, the big 3 of Class 3E. Let's finish this off strong. Kaede Kaino vs Mukuro Ikusaba from Danganronpa. Child prodigies who were introduced into the series under a cheerful disguise wearing pigtails. Both put on these disguises for the sake of their sister. The contrast is that Kaino is trying to avenge his sister, who tried to spread hope amongst the group, while Mukuro is trying to protect his sister, who tried to spread despair amongst the group. They developed a connection with the main protagonists, but still ultimately ended up using them for their own goals. Both had their true identities revealed nearing the end of their story, which in turn leads to the reveal of their teacher's secret identity and story. What's more, the reveal also led to an event that was a divide between their classmates and would determine if someone would die. The Assassination Classroom Civil War and the class trial of Mukuro. They both died via impalement and their deaths were related to feelings of love. Junko killed Mukuro despite loving her, knowing that her love for her sister would make her feel despair, while Kaino died as a result of trying to protect Koro-sensei, who was a teacher that she loved. Despite their deaths, their story didn't quite end just yet. Mukuro was still used in an attempt to give Junko an excuse to kill Kirigiri, while Koro-sensei brought Kaino back to life. Out of all the Kaino matchups, maybe even the Mukuro matchups that I've seen, this one has the best connections for both characters. I would legitimately like to see this. Karma Akabane vs Toko Fukawa aka Genocide Jack aka Genocide Jill aka Genocider Shio from Danganronpa. Seriously, why does she have 4 names to go by? There are people who will kill you and have to defeat a smiling big bad. Oh, and they're also noted to be unpleasant people in certain situations, Karma due to his sadism and Toko due to her paranoia. Both have been stated to be paranoid due to their respective histories, Karma having stated to be a guy who always needed to keep his guard up, while Toko was paranoid towards everyone she meets due to her childhood. Their personalities starting out the series were created due to bad parents and being betrayed by people who were friendly with. They only really started improving with the influence of people around them, one of which was their best friend, who they came to blows with at some point, only to be defeated. Probably my favorite Karma matchup, though apparently his only other option is Yandere-chan from Yandere Simulator, and no. And finally, the last matchup. the matchup to finish off this entire list. One that I think is completely original, and that no one else has ever thought about. Though I could be wrong, I don't have access to certain groups, like the official Death Battle Discord. What is this matchup? This matchup is none other than Nagisa Shiota versus Harry Potter. Yes, I'm serious. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, so I'll be splitting the list of connections into multiple categories. Yes, apparently there's that many. Individuals. Both are characters who are associated with snakes, with Nagisa's bloodlust taking on the form of a snake, and Harry being a parseltongue. Both have had caught attentions of multiple girls in their series. They also had a time skip at the end of the series, which shows off the lives that they were living in the future. Harry being an author, while Nagisa is a teacher. They're both characters who are specialists in an important field of their education, assassination and defense against the dark arts, while also having the subject considered to be the science of their schools being their least favorite, with Nagisa's least favorite subject being actual science and Harry's least favorite subject being potions. Despite being students, they end up being teachers at some point, which becomes an important part of their story. Nagisa being a teacher for Sakura helped him choose the path he was going to take in the future, and Harry being a teacher of Dumbledore's army meant that he had a group of allies to help him fight against the Ministry. Both are restricted to keep their true natures and abilities a secret by their government, with Nagisa being told to keep his career as an assassin a secret, and Harry being told to keep his role as a wizard a secret. And they've both been put in positions where they actually had to go against the government as a result of said government first going against them. Nagisa and his classmate had to fight a bunch of Ministry of Defense officials and mercenaries in order to get to Koro Sensei, and Harry had his entire 5th year. They also have specific aspects of their appearance which sets them apart from the rest of their classmates, Nagisa having his feminine appearance, and Harry having his lightning bolt scar. They're students of a highly renowned school, one which puts its students into specific groups, which also acts as a label as the kind of students who are in them. Two of these groups have a rivalry with each other, which was important to their individual stories at some point. Friends and family. Both grew up in abusive households, but the people who abused them did so in order to make them fit their specific views of who they should be. Nagisa was abused by his mother to be the daughter that she wants him to be, while Dursley abused Harry to try to force him into being a muggle. Eventually they learn to stand up for themselves, which eventually leads to a better relationship with their family. They're students of a highly renowned school, one which puts its students into specific groups, which also acts as labels. Two of these groups have a rivalry with each other, which was important to their individual stories at some point. Friends and families. They both grew up in abusive households. The people who abused them did so in order to make them fit their specific views of who they should be. Nagisa was abused by his mother to be the daughter that she wanted him to be, while Dursley abused Harry to try to force him into being a muggle. They learn to stand up for themselves, which eventually results in a better relationship with their family. Nagisa gets Hirome to see him for the person he was, and Harry ends up having a good relationship with Dudley by the last time they saw each other. They make a decent amount of friends, but they're mostly associated with a trio. One of these three friends is a redhead who is considered to be more violent than the other two. The redhead, at some point, ended up being on the opposite side of their friend, resulting in them breaking up with each other. Eventually, they get back together with their friendships being supposedly stronger. The redhead also has a rivalry with another member of the school, whose father is a very rich man and has a large amount of influence over said school. The other member of the trio is a female classmate who is often shifted with the main character. The girl is also considered to be a rival in the field that the main characters are specialized in. Kaino thought herself to be the best assassin until Nagisa beat her with a kiss, and Hermione has a book smarts to compete against Harry's street smarts. On top of that, both Kaino and Hermione were considered to be child prodigies in their respective fields. Kaino in acting and Hermione in just about everything in terms of education. Teachers, mentors, and authority figures. One of these three was someone who was accused of killing someone close to them, Sirius and Koro Sensei, only for this to not be the case and for the truth to come out and reveal their innocence after they were hunted down in order to be killed. Soon after though, the wrongfully accused is killed as a result of an intense fight, despite the fact that the truth came out and revealed their innocence. Another two teachers, Takaoka and Umbridge, are teachers who are employed by the government to teach the students, but are real pieces of ish, in terms of both being a teacher and being a person. Kurasama and McGonagall are both teachers who act like they only care about rules and such, rarely fighting back against authority figures, but are also quite caring about their students. Both had a teacher who was a massive drama queen, Bitch Sensei and Lockhart, seen as incompetent compared to the other teachers, but taught Nagisa and Harry a specific technique which proved to be extremely useful in the future. Nagisa the Kiss of Death, and Harry the Disarming Charm. Both Nagisa and Harry had a teacher who was one of their best in their lives, but was a criminal who killed many people, Koro-sensei and Barty Crouch Jr. Both had a wise old mentor, Koro-sensei again, and Dumbledore, and they inherited their spirit and mission. Nagisa teaches the future generation, while Harry hunts the Horcruxes. And not only did the mentor die, they died by their own choice and were the ones who asked their killers to do so. I bet you weren't expecting these two to have this many connections. They have the most connections on this entire list. Though I guess the whole entire teacher slash mentor slash authority figure selection could just be all summed up as similar teacher figures. But it's still a lot of connections. I honestly really like this matchup just as much as Nagisa's most popular matchup, him versus Tokaku Azuma. I think both are kinda close in terms of power levels and have good connections, which are good pluses. While Nagisa vs Harry is one that I think has more connections, Nagisa vs Tokaku has more potential for fight choreography since they have similar arsenals. But I put Nagisa vs Harry on this list over that despite the fact that I like it a little bit more because I wanted to talk about this matchup. It's one that I'm most proud of since I came up with it by myself. Though I could be wrong, someone could have come up with this earlier than me, but I don't really know since, again, I don't have access to certain groups. As a result, I consider this to be an original matchup that I came up with, and thus I'm pretty proud of it. Matchups that come close are Shinigami vs Tai Lung, and another two that I might talk about in future videos. But that's then, this is now, and for now, Nagisa vs Harry is the matchup that finally ends this long list. And yeah, there we go. Matchup for every named character in the Assassination Classroom anime, 59 in total. Please let me know your opinion and if you have suggestions for other matchups for certain characters. And if you want me to do something like this again, let's get up to, how about we get up to say 50 likes? 60 likes? That's a good bar, right? There are 59 named characters in the Assassination Classroom anime, so 60 likes. This is my first video, but it's also a hard one to make, and a long list to write. Why I decided to do this again, I don't know. I mean, other than the fact that I love Death Battle, which is on its 10th year of production, and I love Assassination Classroom, which ended 5 years ago.